So true. And on some levels, especially considering to your earlier point of what we've been through, it makes sense. You haven't earned the right to see my pain, right? Like, I met you 6 seconds ago, or I'm just walking into the room. Like, I don't even know if you would hold it as sacred, or will you just hold it as something for you to judge and snicker at and to gossip with whoever it is that you're talking, because maybe that's how you hide from your own pain, is by deflecting and looking at someone else's. So I do understand. Like, I don't think masks are bad. I don't think that at all. Just like a beautiful woman that wears makeup, who doesn't need the makeup, but the makeup just kind of elevates her, might give her a little bit of armor. I don't think that's bad. The challenge is when you feel like you can't do anything without the makeup, that you can only live in the mask, that you can never take it off, and you never have a community, or what I call your kitchen table people, that you feel safe enough to be naked with. Yeah. That's when it's a problem. Like, all right, like those folk you just met yesterday, or you going to work and them people don't like you. It's all right, girl. Put the mask on. Like, it's okay. Do what you need to do so you don't go to jail. Like, that is okay for real. Yeah. But who are your people that you can come home and, for the analogy of women, you can take the bra off, right? Like, you can just let everything hang. If you're a man, you can switch into your comfortable sweatpants and not worry about somebody focused on an imprint, right? Like, and not in a good legacy imprint way, right? Like, just, kind of sexualizing you and fetishizing you in a way that's not necessarily how you want to be seen or felt. Like, who are those people that you can be really comfortable with? And if you don't have those people, we need to back up. What's happening? What blockers do you take responsibility for that you put up, which is a lot of my work? Like, let's look at the thread, like follow the root all the way down, because we attract in some of what we're mirroring out. It's not your fault that you attracted the narcissist, but we do want to look at how that narcissist was able to slip through your guardrails, your boundaries. Like, what was it? Oh, the charming. Why was the charming important? Oh, because no one has complimented you in a sincere way in a while, and you actually just felt good being love bombed because you wasn't receiving love. Like, let's look at it for what it is, but not blame or shame. So a lot of my work is really helping people see why they are where they are, and also how we can amplify them at a new level, which is why we say amplify intimacy from the bedroom to the boardroom.
I love that. I'm over here thinking about the mask that we wear from that conversation, and because one thing you had said, it's okay to mask at certain times, and I get that from when we go outside of work. But if I'm building the future with you, I'm building a legacy with you, at one point, do we need to start transitioning to where I need you as my lifelong partner to be able to feel comfortable enough to unmask with me, and me to be comfortable enough to unmask with you? Is there a timestamp on that when we should be at that process?
Yes.
I feel like you can't, there's no way you're going to build something long-term if we're, like you said, if we're masking all the time.
Oh no, you can't have, for a superficial relationship, it is what it is, right? Like, we appreciate superficial relationships because you want to walk in a room and somebody is like, hey, Tom, what's going on, man? You don't know nothing about their life, and that's okay, right? And they don't know nothing about you, but you just feel good seeing each other. You got good first layer energy, and that's all it is. I call them parking lot people. So you and it's okay, right? Like, nobody wants an empty parking lot. If you have an established homestead, estate, commercial property, you don't want your parking lot to be empty. That is okay. There's nothing wrong with it. But if someone is supposed to be your partner, is supposed to be intimate enough with you where you should be able to be emotionally naked, to share literally what's in your bank account, to share with them the mistakes that you've made that you would never want a microphone put up to, right? Until you're ready and you're healed from it, or maybe never, like you just can't see it. That's a long way from the parking lot. If you imagine your heart and your life and all of the righteous access to you to be like a mansion or an estate, when you pull up to a estate, there's a gate. You open the gate, there literally is a long driveway before you get to the parking lot. There's a process. From the parking lot, there's a little bit of a walkway, depending on how your estate is laid out, where we got steps, the door, hallelujah. Open the door, you ain't all the way in the kitchen. You got an atrium, a living room, a dining room, a breakfast room, and then the kitchen. We got some layers to go through. And sometimes in the challenge, because of our own stuff, again, no judgment, we will meet someone in the neighborhood and immediately hold their hand and take them to the kitchen table. All the right, like all the way through. Oh my God, we must have been brother and sister. Well, I know you from somewhere. We family now, and you all, especially us. Especially us, because we are givers, we are healers by nature, we are lovers, we want to help people, we want to fix people. So we like, what's the best way to do it? Is to show you how much you mean to me, when it should be, let me help you see how much you mean to this world as we get to know each other. And we should dance a little bit. That's the vetting process. So because, to answer your question, some of those people, we already put them in the kitchen. It is what it is. There is no kicking them out. Eviction notices is one of my favorite conversations, is how to get somebody an eviction notice out of one part of your house to another part, or just completely off your estate altogether. That's a whole separate podcast. But eviction notices aside, this person you have got to know enough where you're like, I love what I can see. I've been able to see under the mask enough, even though he or she or they have never taken it off all the way. There's enough in it where I'm like, no, there's some greatness in here that I'm really connected to. I don't want to give you an eviction notice. Then that means we need to have some crucial conversations, not just between you and that person, but you first, with you in the mirror.
Yeah.
What made me say that it was okay to not have some guardian angels, which is what I call my boundaries, some guardrails, something that would help me to move a little bit in a slower fashion. And when I say slow, I don't mean you don't have to know somebody for 10 years before you could take them from the parking lot to your front step. That's not what I mean. Some people there are deep energetic connections with that you're like, oh, we somewhere in a lifetime, we were sisters. We was brother and sister. We were married. Like somewhere there was something, because I feel so deep. That is great. Somewhere, somehow, that was beautiful. But this is a new timeline. This dimension, we have to actually get to date each other. We have to know each other. We have to dance a little bit. So when you have someone that's like, no, you're my partner. We're legally married. We're married on paper, common law, husband and wife, whatever. This is what it is. You're supposed to trust me. Then my question is always why? Why should I trust you? What have you done to me and for me that says my truth, my nakedness is safe with you? Because if you have shown me that every conversation we've had, let's say argument, now you're on the phone with your aunt, you're talking to your sister, you're talking to your cousin, you're telling all of our business, and everybody makes a mistake, that's fair. But we've had conversations around this. I told you that I don't feel comfortable with you sharing what's happening with me at work, or that I just lost my job, or that, I'm having issues with a kid that isn't ours together. Like, why are you sharing these things? These don't make me feel safe to talk to you. And I'm picking on like very loose hypotheticals, but whatever that means for you, for the people who are listening to this right now, what have they done, not just to show you that you can't trust them, but what have they done to show you that you can trust them? And vice versa, because it has to be reciprocal. If your relationship is not reciprocal, both of y'all wearing that mask, not just the other person. Like, what am I looking to constantly be complimented? Am I looking to constantly be validated? What validation, compliments, appreciation, what desire am I showing to this person that I claim I want to be in a deeper, intimate, beautiful relationship with? And all fairness, most of us didn't learn how to do this.
Yeah.
And that's the reality, right? From our earlier conversation, most of us don't know. So a lot of it is trial and error. And you need some non-negotiables around it while you're both agreeing to figure it out. So a non-negotiable is different for everyone. You should have one or two, 3 max. If you got more than 3 non-negotiables, you got a whole list of stuff that you're projecting on the other person. Like, that's a whole list. You can have some things like, I don't prefer this. I prefer the person to be taller than me. I prefer the person to be shorter than me, whatever. Those are preferences. That should not be a non-negotiable. Non-negotiable for me is safety. If my husband, who I love his bathwater, were to ever make me feel unsafe emotionally, physically, financially, sexually, or any of the other lees, that's it for me. We don't have to have no deep conversation. We can call the lawyer. We can separate this amicably, whatever it needs to be, because neither one of us was on the other side. Remember those trauma survival skills were there for a reason. And as much as you've healed, it's like the bike rider who was trained for whatever, what is that French open thing that they be riding 500 miles or something? You know,
I don't know what it's called, but whatever the French, the cycle tour or whatever.
Yes, the Tour de France, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. No, you helped me with that. The Tour de France, they've been training and training and training. It's in their muscles. You can take them off the bike for 10 years. They'll get back on, be a little rusty, but they back in it way better than somebody who's only been riding for a few years. Well, that trauma survival skill is the same for Naketa Ren Thigpen. So you make me feel unsafe. Even though I haven't had to be a warrior in that way in 20 plus years of our relationship, by no means do you think that a knife won't come out faster than you can say, I didn't mean to. And then now we have another issue. And it's not because you necessarily demanded this part of me, but you broke a non-negotiable. So we all have to be really clear what our non-negotiables are with ourselves and what it would mean for someone to intentionally break that in any relationship, not just romantic, but professionally. You have people at work testing you all the time. All the time, especially as a Black man, especially as a Black woman. They will test to see how much you can take. And feel that they can be as provocative and angry and assertive and aggressive as they need to be, and you are supposed to accept it. But we do the same things in our relationship romantically. We will think that because you love me, you're supposed to be able to handle me going off the rails and threatening you every 2 seconds to kick you out. None of that is okay.
I'm over here thinking about that one because a lot of us do that in our day jobs, and we will, especially our parents' time, they would stay at that job and continue to take that abuse or whatever it is, and we call it in the name of providing for family.
Go ahead. Come on.
But I'm over here thinking like there's so many jobs you can go get. Right? How much of yourself do you lose of yourself by doing that? Right? And
so
then
much.
What do you bring back home with you as a result of that? And how healthy is that? If you're providing for your family, what are you providing to your family by staying in that trauma response and bringing that trauma back home? What how much has that cost you and your family?
Now that is the link, if you will, when we were talking in the green room mainly about the dots that connect all of my work. That link that you just mentioned is a huge part of why I started to add in, because they weren't always a focus. Entrepreneurs weren't always the focus. They really were the clients kind of telling me that they needed some more support around it. But it was that. Is when you become an entrepreneur, all of that is amplified. All of your insecurity is amplified. All of your trauma is amplified. Everything is amplified because now you are, by nature of being a founder, a co-owner, a small business owner, an entrepreneur, any area of that where now you have to literally depend on yourself for all of the things and all of the hats in a big different way than when you would go to work, still depending on yourself because you're doing the work, right? But you know that if you call out sick for many jobs, not all, but many jobs, all right, I couldn't work on Tuesday. My check is not going to be different on Friday. It's still going, as long as I had some PTO, PPO, whatever the acronym is now, as long as I had some time in there, it's still going to be the same. As assuming that I'm a good worker and my work is valued, I'm still going to have that job. But as an entrepreneur, small business owner, founder, co-owner, you miss work on that Tuesday. That's a whole day of income that not only may show up that Friday as a negative, but the next 90 days after. Because what you do today as an entrepreneur does show up months later. So a lot of the entrepreneurs that I was attracting, especially when we were doing this micro retreat called Permission to Pause, which was really fun and gamified. But a lot of these women were coming, it was mostly women at that time, they were coming in and they were exhausted and burnt out and overwhelmed with makeup on, right? With the armor, with the mask, glossy from top to bottom, and in so much pain. And the pain wasn't just because of what they had to navigate through as an entrepreneur, but because they felt so much shame in their parenting. They felt so much shame in their relationship, what their sex life wasn't or what it was. Because not everyone is not having sex because they're stressed. Some people are using sex as medicine and they're not actually being enticed by it. They feel like it's a chore that they have to do, which then plays on them in so many other ways. And so by working with the women, they started saying, can you talk to my man? Like, can we do this together? Like, can we have, I said, okay. Because power couple work wasn't always the focus, like the power couple and what we call potent human, which means you're a founder or a leader. And it was the women who were like, you've helped me so much. Can you please? Or he said, I don't know what you got going on in that group, but I need some of it too. Like, your difference is so amazing. And that's how the husbands, if you will, started to come in. And I realized in working with them separately, because it's important for everyone to have their own individual space, these husbands were not being heard. They were not being appreciated because they're amazing leader-esque. I don't want to call them a boss bitch, but like the phenomenon that they loved about their women, which is amazing, was also the thing that was hurting them. Because they were feeling emasculated in many different ways. And I'm not saying it from a perspective of they couldn't handle the strength of their woman. That's not even the angle that I'm talking about. It was she working, 12, 16, 18 hours because she feels like that's how she'll be validated, which is wrong. That's why we say the lazy overachiever. Like there's a way to do it without like breaking down your body and your mind. But that's what's happening. And when she gets done, she ain't got no energy. She ain't got no room. She ain't got no patience. She definitely don't hear you when you're just trying to fill her in on your day or just have some kind of conversation. And a lot of these men were suffering in silence because they felt like if they said anything that made them a punk, or they were somehow handicapping or handcuffing her ability to be able to be amazing, because they truly did support and want it. But they're like, I got into this relationship for a reason. Like I'm in it with you. I'm not on the sideline when you wake up one day in 3 years and decide you have a little time for me. So that's really where the entrepreneur aspect came from. Is I was like, whoa. We are too amazing to be creating legacies financially, but not creating them familially so that we can have the love that we deserve truly.
I love that. Thanks for connecting the dots for me. All this comes to, it's a deja vu moment for me because I think it was in 2020 when we had the pandemic, people were forced to take a pause. I got a chance to meet some amazing, powerful women leaders. And we had a conversation around this where we talked about burnout, how it's real, the grind culture, and especially as if you're a woman leader period, and then also coupling that with being a woman leader in as an entrepreneur or in a male dominated industry, right? And the imposter syndrome and all these other things. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing in these conversations because it was a safe enough space for them to be vulnerable in that way. And look at, how much we have celebrated this grind culture to the fact that people were burnt out, people were tired, and how broken these people were, but they were masking to seem as if they were strong. And we probably probably a year later, we got into some other conversations of what did it look like. And I got introduced to this young lady from the NAP ministry. And one of the things that she said is rest is restorative and revolutionary.
Yes.
Right? Ooh, that hit me to my soul. I was like, wait, rest is restorative and revolutionary?
Yes. That's a t-shirt.
And so learning how to just implement that into our daily lives. Something that you also mentioned earlier when we were talking was the imprint. And I'm thinking about imprinting strategies and success. What strategies have you found most effective in your work? And Could you share some success stories and highlight the impact of those strategies?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll speak to the layers of the listeners, right? So if you're a listener who is single and working your gifts inside an organization where your time is not necessarily defined by you, like you have to show up at 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever, and it is what it is, and there's no judgment, there's no shame, but you're kind of navigating around that, and you are what I call multi-hyphenate because you have these other passions, these other gifts that are in addition to how you show up in your full-time service to the world as a servant leader that way. When you're navigating that and you're like, well, I want to do this, I want to work on this other thing, but I also want to have a good relationship, right? Like I want to have that. So speaking to you folks first, and this is assuming that you actually want to have a relationship because I'm not pushing love on anyone. It's been a beautiful remedy for me, but this is if you are single and seeking, not if you are single and satisfied and not seeking any of those things. But if you're single and seeking and you still have a 9 to 5 type employment and you have passion projects and you want room for dating, because this came up when I was in Accra. Actually, some of the ladies, we were having a conversation, they were like, I got a lot of good stuff happening and going on, I don't have no room for no man, but I want a man, right? Like that's basically the context of what was coming up. Some of the advice that comes up for me a lot that I give to a lot of clients that are really hammered with, what do I have to sacrifice? Do I have to sacrifice my dream? Do I have to sacrifice the fact that I'm also in school trying to upskill? Because that's the thing that Black people do more than any other group in at least the United States, is we upskill ourselves tremendously. We have more certification and degrees than people got underwear, but right. And so we're typically like doing all of those things in addition to. If you're trying to figure out where this person can fit in, I would say the best thing you can do is to catch and keep yourself first. So you want to communicate with you, what is it that you really want? Okay, I want to love, I'm just throwing it out. I want to love who respects me, who has their own, I don't want to use the word hustle in like the hustle grind way, but has their own work, has their own giving. They acknowledge and support me, and give me some room so I can miss them. They're not all up under my butt. Like I want some room because I've been single, so I'm not used to having to share my space all the time. I want that space. Okay, if that's what you want, that's great. Make an agreement with yourself. Making agreements is biblical. Whether you are Bible following or not, when you can write something down as plain as a third grader can read it, those things are sending signals, as I'm a metaphysician as well, they're sending signals to the universe that you are ready for that. You have to make sure that you write it down. That's why people do vision boards and power manifestos and all those other kind of intention setting cards. There is real truth to how that works and how it helps. Make an agreement with yourself, not all about, I need the person to be brown eye, 6'3", that if you want to add that, that's fine, but that's not really to the integrity of what you want. You want that person to love on you and have room for you to love on them, that reciprocity back in that. Yeah. And aside from making the agreement verbal, you have to create the time for yourself. Because if you don't create time for yourself, you have no time for another human. And then when you do make time for that other human, because we will fit someone in somehow. When you're in love, when it first kick in, you will move your whole schedule around, and then you will resent them. You will resent them because somehow this fool got into your calendar and you made all this room for them until they started taking off the mask and showing you who they were, right? So you didn't give up all this time. And meanwhile, you're still dealing with all of your issues because now you have caregiver burnout because you were caregiving someone else and not yourself. So make the time for you first. If it's 10 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, whatever you can do is beautiful. I literally prescribe people bubbles and say, take some bubbles, keep them by your desk and blow them. When you blow bubbles and you focus on how big can I get this bubble? Can I get it as big as the bottom of a coffee cup? Can I get it as big as a saucer, as big as a plate? When you do that, you're doing your deep breathing exercises, but you're also tapping into your inner child who guaranteed needs a little love and attention. So you're doing it in a playful way. So it's a lot of science and nerd stuff, but I don't want to knock y'all out of y'all heart space right now. I want you to stay in your heart. Just know that the bubbles are just not silly. It can be silly and fun, but bubbles, playing music, really embodying the deep breath to massage your organs and release toxins, like, is really helpful. But all you have to do is blow some bubbles. Take 2 to 5 minutes a day, blow some bubbles, get them from your local Dollar Tree or whatever store makes sense for you. Just make sure they're non-toxic, of course, because we green folks up in here. But make sure that you're taking care of you and just breathe. If you can do that with you, then you're making space for the lover. So that way, when you're sharing the space with that person, you don't feel like they're dominating you or that you have to lose yourself, because you already know who you are. So for the single folks that are seeking, that's what I always encourage them, is to start with you. If you're in a relationship already and you're like, I need something to get this right, because I don't want, nobody's crossed a non-negotiable. I know what my non-negotiables are. If you don't create them, what is that for you? For some people, non-negotiable is no infidelity. For some people, it's, don't make me feel unsafe. For some people, infidelity means making them feel unsafe, like really defining for you what your 1 to 3. 3 is a stretch. 3 is like a micro breakdown of an example, but really 1 to 2 non-negotiables in your relationship for you that applies across the board. If you can create those 1 to 2 non-negotiables, the next thing you have to do is start listening. Listen to your lover. They can be talking nonsense all day long. It doesn't matter. Just listen. Listen for what they like. Listen for how they've changed. Listen for how they listen to you. Like, just start listening, because a lot of us, especially the booked and busy, you are so enthralled with all your work that you're missing some very clear directions that are in your face every single day. And you're like, I don't know how to help him. I don't know how to help her. I don't know what they want. They've been telling you. They've been telling you through their actions, through their inactions, through the words they use and the words they don't use. But you've been so booked and busy with all your upskilling and all the other things you have going on in life. This is no judgment. This is just observation of 20,000 plus families that I've worked with over the last 2+ decades. Listen. And if you're like a little type A person, get a notebook and start writing down what you're hearing. Okay, today I was just listening to John. I was listening to how long he took his shower, how he was humming to himself. Oh, he seems to wake up really positive. I was listening to Lisa, and she is not a morning person. She was complaining from the minute her eyes open, right? Like, just take note and listen, because a lot of times I always say, people, you give them long enough and they will tell on themselves every single time. And the telling on yourself, I want everyone to hear my heart. It's not just like, I'm trying to find out what's wrong with you, right? Because we all got stuff. We human, and we all got them 14+ generations that we're aware of, and probably a lot more than that that's going on in us. But just listen for how you can support. That's one of my first questions to anyone that I actually want to connect with. Not that I'm just networking with, like, hey, how you doing? Hey, Ty, what's up? Don't know nothing about Ty, because Ty in the parking lot. But when I'm ready to take Ty's hand and walk him up to the steps and really get to know him more, one of my first questions is, how can I support you? And sometimes people don't know the answer to that, but give them some time. Just listen.
Man, I was laughing earlier because you was naming my wife there. Like, she's not a morning person. I'm the morning person. She like, listen, look, I need my coffee for all this conversation you having. Like, give me a minute. And I was like, all right, let me. It took me a while to realize that, like, how you not a morning person? Like, you wake up angry?
Oh, Ty, that's you and me are we kinfolk in that, because my husband is definitely not. He's a night owl by nature. He's had to train himself to be more awake and more alert in the morning, but it's still not his favorite time. So I had to, and I wake up. My nickname in our family is Bunny. I'm hopping from the beginning almost to the end of the day. I also go to bed really early, like a 75-year-old sage. But that aside, I'm constantly hopping. And it can be a lot for my kids too, that are now 23 and 27. But they're like, oh my God, Mom. So I had to listen to each of them. Like, okay, so for my husband, best thing I can do, I wake up. How'd you sleep, babe? I slept. Okay. Would you like some tea? Because acts of service is his love language. So I knew that by giving him something, didn't take anything from me. It bonded us just to have that little 5 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever it was. And then sometimes we'll massage the moment into a little bit more conversation. Sometimes we can't, but he responds well to acts of service. And I was like, okay, this works really well for us. And that became a thing. I feel like we started it. God, my kids were not even teenagers. So it's been a really long time. And that same thing, whether it's tea or sometimes it's a smoothie, sometimes the object changes, but that is our thing, even when we're not together, because I do a lot of traveling for work. So one of the first things we do when I send him, I don't call him. I know the time zone and everything. He ain't that person. I send him a message. Good morning. I usually say it in whatever language is of the land that I'm in at the time, right? To like kind of bring him into the connected moment. And then one of the first things I say, besides how you sleep, is, did you hydrate today? So it's just kind of listening for what that is for them. But I know I'm a lot in the morning.
Look, I love how you give these like nice, just small, easy examples from your life that anybody can apply into their life too. So I appreciate you sharing the story with us and these different words of wisdom. But I'm trying to think of how to close this out, because we don't do the Joe Rogan type of podcast around here. Although me and you, we could probably talk for days now that I'm vibing with you. Man.
Am I out in the parking lot? Time out in the parking
lot. You in the kitchen, girl. You in the kitchen. You better stop with this parking lot stuff. Naketa, it's been incredibly enlightening. For those who are interested in learning more about your work and engaging with Thig Pro Institute, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place, honestly, is our website, which is thigpro, thigpro.com. Of course, if you tune into either one of our balance and relationship podcasts, whether it be Balance Boldly or The Lazy Overachiever, there's lots of conversation there. And both of those things are available on our website as well. We evolve our services. So depending on what's happening with our power couples and potent humans, which are our founders, entrepreneurs, and leaders, I'm either creating digital and print journals. We have our women's self-care guilds. We're evolving for the men's self-care guild, because that's been a request, which is
we need it too.
Yeah, that's right. You do. You're not lying. And I love me my men. Okay, like it's the reason we've been married all these years, because I love my man. I'm also the mother of a son and a grandson, right? Like I want to make sure that all of us are supported. So depending on what it is that is in our appetite for the day, it's all on thigpro.com.
Well, this woman just told me she had a grandson
and a granddaughter
and a granddaughter. Wait till y'all see this video. I don't know what is in the water that these black women are drinking, because she don't look a day over 40.
Sweet.
Talk about she had grandbabies.
So sweet. It's the love.
That's what it is, the love. Okay, I need me some of that love in my life. Thank you again. I'm gonna put this out here. This has truly been a great conversation. You like what by far for me, you like the number one balance and relationship advisor in the world. Like, because I've had plenty of conversations, and the gems you shared today was top notch. So thank you, Naketa, for sharing your wisdom with us today. Listeners, look, if you're inspired by Naketa's approach to life and relationships, don't hesitate to reach out and explore more. Remember to subscribe and share our podcast. Stay tuned for more inspiring episodes like this here at Rise Urban Nation. I'm your host, Terrell Simmons, and we're out.